Isn't that pretty? There's a story that goes with that, and the story is just as pretty. Once there was a man who married an angel. She wasn't really an angel, but she was so sweet and kind and good, she seemed like one to him. In fact, she was too good for this earth, and soon she died, leaving him with a little daughter, who in every way was just like her mother, sweet and kind and good, and pretty too. But the poor man was very lonely, and in time he married another wife. You couldn't blame him for trying again, he had done so well the first time. But this wife turned out to be very ordinary. Not just ordinary, but mean and bossy and stuck up. She had 2 daughters of her own, and they were stuck up too. And homely? Oh, brother. I don't know what they were so stuck up about. Well, it wasn't so hard on the father. He managed to spend a good deal of his time down cellar and didn't know half of what went on. But his poor little daughter, the new wife was jealous of her. She made her do all the nastiest work in the house and gave her only ragged clothes to wear so she wouldn't look so pretty. When company came to call, she would trot out her own 2 girls and have them recite little pieces. But the pretty one she kept hidden in the kitchen. The only place she was allowed to sit was in a corner of the fireplace among the ashes and cinders. People called the poor girl Cinderella, but her stepmother just addressed her as, "Hey, you." Now it happened that the king's son was giving a ball, and he must have invited everybody in the phone book because Cinderella's homely sisters both got invitations. Well, sir, such excitement. All they could talk about was what they were going to wear to the ball. All day long, woo, yab, 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 yab. And they stuck out their tongues at Cinderella and cried, "Ha ha, don't you wish you were going?" But Cinderella was just as nice as she could be. The day of the ball, she helped her sisters wash their hair, which was yellow and stringy. She tightened their corsets so they wouldn't look so fat. She helped them into their party gowns and fastened them up the back, and never once stuck them with a pin. Cinderella, though, was human. She watched her sisters setting out for the ball, and then she crawled off into her corner of the fireplace and just cried and cried and cried. Now, some little girls have angels who watch over them, and some have fairy godmothers. Cinderella had a fairy godmother, and when she heard how Cinderella wept, she came a-running. "Why, Cinderella," she cried, "what is it, child?" And when Cinderella couldn't answer, she said gently, "I know. You wish you were going to the ball. Well, dry your eyes and come with me. I have a perfectly wonderful idea." And she had, too. You wait and see. Well, guess what the godmother did? Oh, you know. Well, that's right. She sent Cinderella out into the garden to fetch her a pumpkin, the biggest she could find. The godmother touched it with her magic wand. And there stood a magnificent coach, all solid gold. This godmother was no mean fairy. Well, there was the coach, but it needed horses. So the fairy godmother told Cinderella to fetch her the family mousetrap. It was a daisy special, which catches the mice alive and has room for 6. Very popular with mice. The godmother opened a little door at the bottom, and as each mouse ran out, she tapped it quickly with her wand. And one more. There. In a flash, she had 6 beautiful horses, all dapple gray with plumes on their bobbing heads. Now what they needed was a coachman. "Let's have another look at that trap," said the godmother. And sure enough, while their backs were turned, a rat had crawled into the trap. Must have been waiting in line. It took only a touch of the godmother's wand to turn him into a handsome coachman with whiskers. And to accompany him, she produced 6 footmen in livery. Formerly lizards from under the porch. "There," said the godmother, well pleased with her work. "Now you can go to the ball in style." But poor Cinderella looked down at the rags she was wearing, and her eyes filled again with tears. She knew she could never go to the ball that way. "Oh, godmother," she said, "I'm a fright." "My child," said her godmother, "you are beautiful, and I will make your clothes as beautiful as you are." Cinderella saw her raise the magic wand. She clasped her hands and held her breath and shut her eyes, for she was almost afraid. and then she felt it touch her. A delightful shiver ran through her body. It made her dizzy. She thought she'd faint with excitement. And then suddenly, she opened her eyes and she saw. Her gown was of satin, the finest in the world, embroidered with pearls. There were jewels in her hair. She could feel them. And when she looked down, she saw that she was wearing a pair of tiny glass slippers, dancing slippers, just beautiful. But prettiest of all was the light in her eyes, which had been there always. Well, Cinderella was so happy she just made no sense. She talked and she babbled and she fluttered about. Her godmother, laughing, kissed her and bundled her into the coach. "Have fun," she said. "Dance with everybody." The coachman gathered up his reins. The footmen climbed to their seats. And then the godmother cried, "Wait!" There's one thing you must remember, my dear. You must leave the ball before the clock strikes 12. For if you stay 1 minute after that, your coach will turn into a pumpkin again, and you'll be back in rags.